Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Nice Radio. Place when I was born. This is your host, Alice Born Alive. We got royalty in the building. We lucked up today. You understand what I'm saying? We got a legend back from wherever legends go when they fade to black. Okay, back here on the scene. Callie's old man, my sister, warrior comrade, about to lace us with some game. This is Black Goddess Empowerment Month, and we definitely got a Black Goddess who's gonna give us some real deal empowerment today. So without any further ado, it becomes my honor and privilege at this time to introduce some present the others and welcome back to Do the Knowledge Radio after a long ass hiatus. My revolutionary warrior sister, Queen Kalifa, in the building. Queen, what's going on?
Oh man,
how you feeling, Conrad? How you feeling? How you feeling?
Man, living this revolutionary life is the best way I can. You know what I mean? Raising these black kids, or let me say children. Uh, Man, it's a struggle out here, and I know it is. And taking my little hiatus, like you said, like I did, and seeing things from a different perspective. This is a different approach I would like to take. I spoke on this once before when I was on a radio show. But now that I am, 10 toes down in this specific situation as far as what I'm speaking on, other than my unconscious time period and being conscious and back in the matrix, there's some things I want to touch on, you know what I mean? And what I want to talk about today in particular um, is black relationships and childbirth. Um, a lot been going on personally within my life that pushed me to speak on this specific topic in particular. Um, Dealing with black relationships and birthing. So this is why I chose this these two in particular topics, because I personally feel like I have a hand-on experience dealing with it. Um, Now, to begin, I want to talk about black birthing. You know what I mean? And I had just had a girl in July. She was taken from me the next month, literally 3 weeks after she was born, to SIDS. And those who don't know what SIDS is, it's sudden infant death syndrome. That's what they dub it, or sudden undetermined infant death syndrome. Um, it's a lot of speculation going around as far as studies when it comes to this topic, but I'm not going to dive into that. Um, I'm going to talk about how this specific thing affects the black community, among other things that's affecting our black community when it comes to birthing our children in this world. What I want to talk about specifically right now is home birthing, because I personally feel like black people and black women in general need to um, really focus on how we are bringing our children into this world, and whether it be traumatic or a very wonderful experience. And I don't feel like we've been, experiencing childbirth like how we really should, and we're not looking at childbirth like we really should. You know what I'm saying? So with that, it's how we look at childbirth and how we choose to take steps to bring our children into this world. And I want to talk about that, the medical field. Now, when we go to these doctors and hospitals to deal with this specific situation and birth our child into this world, we're not taking into consideration that they do not have our best interest at heart whatsoever, period, point blank. You know what I mean? Like, they make bread off of C-sections. Now, I'm not saying that it's bad to do a C-section, because if it's medically necessary, you know what I mean? By all means, do what's necessary. But if they're giving you reasons on why you need a C-section, and they are, because, you're genetic, you're a gestational diabetic, so we have to take the baby early, which I am personally a person who did not go through with that. I did not let them give me a C-section at 36 weeks. And I went on to do my full term. I went 39 weeks and 4 days. So I was a couple of days away from a full term child. And well, technically, she would be considered a full term child. And I birthed her natural. She was 10 pounds, 1 ounce, big, beautiful baby. Um, Nothing was wrong with her. She was good. She had high bilirubin levels. And I come to find out, because they induced my labor, and my daughter ended up coming out with high bilirubin levels where she had a possibility of getting jaundice. And that's when the baby's skin or eyes are yellow. And I found out that when they induced me, the drug they use called Pitocin, jaundice is a side effect of that drug. Now, your body naturally makes Pitocin. That's what they give you to induce your labor. Your body naturally makes it. Pitocin is a synthetic drug that they use to help induce your labor. Your body naturally makes it. It's called oxytocin. And they synthesize this specific drug to hurry things up, for the lack of a better way to explain it. Now, one of the reasons why they would use this specific drug would be to, well, the reason why they would use this specific drug is to um, hurry up the process. Say if your water broke and the baby has been in there 12 to 24 hours after, they would have to take the baby or hurry along the process as far as giving you Pitocin to speed things along. And that's a possibility because the baby might end up defecating inside the womb with the meconium of the first poop that babies usually have. It is black and sticky, and end up ingesting it. It actually happened to my brother, and his daughter was born a couple of months ago. So I know firsthand the Pitocin dynamic and firsthand through family situations as far as the meconium. Now, when it comes to this whole drug dynamic and what they give us and how they operate with us in these hospitals needs to be addressed. You know what I mean? When it comes to home birthing, that is outside of the spectrum of about 90 to 95% of Black women right now, because home birthing is a field that is predominantly uh, 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 practiced by white women. They're taking a more of a holistic approach and having their children at home and not going to the hospitals and not trusting the hospitals. Like in particular, if you guys remember not Jenny Jones, Ricky Lake, she ended up having a baby in the hospital when she really wanted to have it at home because of, I guess, pregnancy complications, and she ended up having to go to the hospital. And her second child, she ended up having a home birth, even though she wanted to have a home birth with her first child. Complications happened and other things happened, but she wanted a natural birth. And her second one, she did. She said it was the best experience of her life. This is something you can actually go look up. She did a documentary on it. And home birthing is not common for us. And with me having my first pregnancy and my child born at home, it was a wonderful experience. A wonderful experience. I was treated like a human. I felt comfortable in my environment. And I was just dealing with things as they came instead of being scared and having all these tubes hooked up to me and having people come in and check on me periodically, unnecessarily, instead of just letting me ride out these contractions. And it was that my last three were had in hospitals, and my first was had at home, and it was a different experience for me. And when I first had my first child, everybody told me at that time, every pregnancy is different. So if you have any other children after this, it will be different, especially if you have it in a hospital. So I took heed to that. You know what I mean? And doing my research on her birth, and at that point with my first child, I knew for a fact that I was supposed to be getting into that field. I was a revolutionary. I was in a specific organization, and I had one of my comrades in that organization taking up home birthing and midwifery. That's the term for it, midwifery, as far as helping women have babies at home. You have doulas, and then you have midwives. Doulas are more what you would categorize as a nurse that helps you along the pregnancy with prenatal things, and midwife too, but the doula is more so that's going to do more checking up on you than the midwife. She's like the middle person to the midwife, for the lack of a better way to explain it. I don't have all the details on how that world goes, but I know after this specific situation with my daughter, I am definitely going to dive deep into that specific topic, but that's neither here nor there. Now, when it comes to home birth, and as far as Black women here in America and in the world in general, that's how we've been doing things. We've been having our babies at home. Of course, there's some times where things do happen, but in the majority, our babies, obviously we birthed the world, what I'm saying? Our babies were coming out fine, doing things how we normally do it at home. And then around the 1930s in particular is when the medical field started saying no more home births or outlawing home birthing and encouraging women to go to hospitals. And by the 1930s, 30% of women were having their babies in hospitals. And then by the 1960s, 97% of women were actually having their babies in hospitals. So it was a big jump fairly quickly, especially with the laws they were passing to make sure home birthing was outlawed. Now, in around 1902, there was a woman named Justina Ford. She was based out of Colorado. She was the first Colorado's first black female physician. Um, I want to say black female physician. Period. Um, and she was an advocate for home birthing. And what helped push her along to help black women have babies at home was the fact that her being black in a highly racially tensioned a time period that we were in at that time, it pushed her in a way that would make her help women have babies at home because she wasn't accepted at hospital. You know what I mean? So she took that step to deal with that, and she was denied her ability to help black women have babies or women in general to help them have babies in the hospital. So she took it upon herself to help them at home, and she was at her time making changes for black women, you know, especially with the fact that the laws were changing. So it was a kind of difficult to not be a part of that whirlwind and making sure women knew, like, okay, this is not how things are supposed to be done. Like you have, I forget the doctor's specific name, but the doctor who is known for gynecology and all the experiments that he had tried on us, he's a pioneer for gynecology, and he experimented and founded his ideology by trying out and testing things out on black women, black slaves, with no anesthetics, without having a sterile environment, as far as hysterectomies, episiotomies. You know what I mean? These things and these procedures that are looked upon now as solutions to certain dynamics that occur with women, and 9 times out of 10 is due to oppression, not having the right foods available, not taking care of ourselves, and being conscious of what we need to be putting into our temple. All these things happen, and we have to go to these people, and they're not having our best interest in mind. You know what I mean? So back to Sister Justina, she um, pioneered home birthing specifically in Colorado, and it's not a lot of people in Colorado birthing babies right now anyway. Out of, I want to say, 2,500 physicians that are in Colorado, about 67 to 68 of them are black, and it shows how much they have people who look like us, just like in the pig department. You know, there's not too many people that look like us that have our best interest in mind, or they're not there at all, even if they do have our best interest in mind. Um, she just took it upon herself to start seeking change, and since decades later, there's a sister out there. I want to say her name right. I hope I'm not butchering her name. Sharika. She is a midwife in Colorado, and all these laws that are in place for women right now to not be able to do them, they're trying to, women like her are trying to make sure that we do have all these things available to us. Like if I'm having a home birth and and she needs to use certain utensils or tools to help with that process, they don't have access to. Like they're limited to what they can do at a home birth, and it's really messed up on how they push us to have no other resort but to go to y'all, especially with midwifery being a very expensive dynamic. Like Medicaid to pay for certain shit in certain states, but in general, in the totality, as far as this country goes, they don't pay for certain shit. You know, they won't. They tend to, like when I first had my second child in the hospital, I told my nurses, like, oh, I had my first at home, like, you know, I could do this by myself if I really put my mind to it, educated myself around the topic. They were like, what? Really? And it wasn't like they were against it, because I had two black nurses, ironically, who was with the shit. One of them didn't believe in vaccines, and the other one was just pro-black, period. So I was just like, luckily to have those type of sisters surrounding me at my birth. And ironically, on my third child, which is my first daughter, I had those same two nurses because I went to the same hospital. Um, but luckily, I had those type of sisters around me, and they weren't against them. But the white and Mexican nurses were. Nothing against their opinion. That was just my personal opinion. I personally felt like me, even with my other two kids that I had in the hospital, I wanted to have at home. But due to the fact that economically, these midwives and doulas need to be able to make a living, a lot of them don't solely just dedicate their time to birthing. They have to have either a second job or a second form of income, because a lot of the times the sisters that they help can't economically pay for their services, or Medicaid or Medi-Cal isn't paying for it. So they have to take on, if they're doing things pro bono and they just want to help the community, they have to take on a second form of income. Like I'm starting to study binary trading just to have a second and third economic income if I truly wholeheartedly want to take on this birthing dynamic that we have a struggle with in our community, especially in a revolutionary manner. Um, it was hard to accept a lot of things dealing with my own situation as far as losing my daughter to SID, and wondering was it something that I did wrong, or wondering if it was something on a hospital behalf that they did wrong, because there's a lot of things that they do wrong and don't like to take responsibility for. You know what I mean? In particular, right, with my daughter having high bilirubin levels, my son had the same problem. My second son that I had, and the first I had in the hospital, he had high bilirubin levels. And they had told me that they wanted to put him under a UV light, and I told them no because I was not with his father. So I didn't have to chime in on somebody else's advice on should I or should I not. I was the sole decider of that decision for that specific situation. Excuse me. And I made the decision to say no. And I took my son home. And at his first doctor's appointment after leaving the hospital, the doctor said he was fine. And ironically, she was an Islamic sister, so she had my best interest in mind. And she's like, he's fine. His color is fine. His bilirubin levels are okay. He's good for his age. Don't worry about it. But with my daughter, it was different. They had to put her on their light because I asked the father, like, I had to chime in on what do you feel about it, because I was in a relationship. So I had to make sure I got his opinion on whether he wanted to do it or not. He said, go ahead and do it because I don't want nothing happening to her when we take her home. So I said, okay. And with that being said, they started the treatment. Now, they started this treatment and they told me that they were going to have her on this treatment, the UV light treatment, for 36 hours. No, 18 hours. And they were going to see how her levels change. Mind you, when they put the baby under the UV light, which is basically a concentrated version of sun rays, and when they did that, she had to stay under their light. She had to have no shirt, no clothes, no socks, and just her diaper. She had to have these type of little foam goggles to go over her eyes because this is a concentrated version of sun rays, so it could damage her eyes and she could possibly go blind. So she couldn't breastfeed. They told me I could not breastfeed her because they had found CBD in my system, right? Mind you, I was smoking CBD and taking CBD tinctures because I had a prematurely widening pelvis. Like I had just had my daughter, my first daughter, a year and some change before, so my body was like, "Oh, we're gonna do this again? Okay, let's get this ready." But it was too soon. So I had real bad hip and pelvis problems. So I would take CBD tinctures and CBD puffing or CBD vapors to help with the pain without having the side effects of THC and marijuana. Because I know with this system, they not know. You have any type of drug in your system when you have your baby's getting snatched. So they said that I could not breastfeed her until my results came back. My results came back. They said, "Oh, now you can breastfeed her." She had a problem latching because she was so used to the bottle and the formula because it came so fast. Like she had to work for the milk out of the breast, but she didn't have to work that hard for the bottle. So she got used to that, and it was upsetting me because it was hard for her to latch. So when I let her go on with the treatment for those hours, they took her off, checked her levels, and it was still high. And I'm like, y'all said that this is supposed to make her bilirubin levels go down, and it's not. So I have a problem with this. I really don't want you to continue the treatment. There was a male doctor that came in there, and he had said that if you take her off this treatment now, outside of our professional advice, if you take her home, CPS and the police will be at your door. And CPS is Child Protective Services. Some states it's Department of Children and Family Services. But everybody in general knows this specific organization, and doesn't have Black people's best interest at heart. So I was like, damn, like y'all gonna send the police to my house because I didn't take to your professional opinion and advice when it's not something I have to do. It's your professional opinion. I don't have to do anything. You're advising me. You're giving me your professional advice because you have a higher knowledge in this specific field than I do. But if I feel like my child is going to be fine, I know my child's going to be fine because it happened with my second son. So, long story short, with that specific situation, At this specific point, it pushed me to want to get into that field. Now, the black relationship dynamic, because I'm tying these two together, because they're obviously they cannot be. It has to coincide, and you can't have one without the other. We don't take birthing as serious as we should in black relationships. There is a percentage of us who are very serious about how the spiritual and energetic connections that come about when you have a child with someone. Like right now, I'm in the middle of reading this book by Sister Ma'at M. Makaru. It's called What's in Your Womb? And sexual encounters that are platonic or not platonic, that are just friends with benefits or, sex with no strings attached. You got to think about those things very deeply, because with every sexual encounter, the man is leaving his energetic footprint in your womb. Whether you have a baby or not, say you're on birth control or whatever, but his sexual energy is left with you. His footprint of energetic understanding is left with you. So, and particularly a female, because he doesn't have to think about that with us. We have to think about who we letting in our wombs, and what type of footprint we letting them leave on our lives. Because a lot of the time when we have these children out of a friend with benefit dynamic, the understanding of the spiritual connection is not there. It's non-existent. Because y'all know y'all was just fucking. There's no obligation to the life that's being created. There's no understanding of what that is doing. You are bringing a life into the world, a person that's going to contribute to the community as a whole, because I am we, and I am because we are. You know what I mean? Those are the dynamics that we have to start living by. The whole village raise a tribe, the village raise a child, and the tribe dynamic, and all these other things, because the black relationship is the foundation of that. And to shift the topic over to the black relationships, we are failing, y'all. We are failing dramatically. We're getting to a point where we're starting to recognize the general consciousness of black people it is rising, but I feel like we need to be on a speed bullet train. Like, we need to be taking this wholeheartedly serious, because black women and black men, as far as when it comes to family structure and building foundations for relationships, we don't take it serious. Uh, Black women are, well, let me first say this. The root of a lot of our problems in a black family structure and black relationships that build these family structures are negating from the fact that slavery has a big part to play on how we interact with each other, right? From sexual subjugation on both parts of the black man and the black woman and the black child. Sexual subjugation meaning black male rape, black female rape, and black child rape, where you had the black man to demean his whole sense of person. He would have to have intercourse with his child or his mother or his sister or what have you, whatever family member that the white man chooses to place him with, to demean his spirit. You know what I mean? To break down his sense of self, from tarring and feathering to tying a black man up to a horse on one end and a horse on the other end and ripping him apart in front of the whole plantation. These are things that were done to break down the black man's psyche of being able to protect his family. So if he can't keep himself safe with these outer constructs that were socially constructed, he can't protect us if he can't even protect himself. You know what I mean? And all these dynamics, as far as, in particular, let's start off with the black man. He has to deal with from the outside perspective of being out there and being sexually subjugated, from being looked at as just a sexual tool. You are not fit to be a father. All you really need to pay attention to is your sexual escapades, and that's what makes you a man. How many notches you can get on your belt. Do you also have, hold on, let me check my notes because I did write this down. Do you have joblessness? The fact that black men are not able to express themselves emotionally in a healthy environment without being ridiculed is basically non-existent. Like right now, if a black man is going through a breakup or a divorce, right? His boy's gonna call him if he's been in the house and he ain't been dealing with no one. His boy's gonna probably call him, just as a scenario, hypothetically speaking. The boys will call him up and, oh, what happened, bro? Oh, she did this. All right, me and the boys gonna pull up with whatever. We're gonna go play ball, whatever. They don't even talk. 9 times out of 10, they don't even talk about the topic at hand. They just, sweat it off. Play ball or drink it off, go drink or what have you. Or if they're promiscuous, go fuck some other female to get their mind off of her. You see what I mean? And it puts us in a situation that we're not seeing eye to eye. We're not connecting and understanding that, okay, if I'm a female, I need to understand the dynamics that you're facing as a black man and be your pillar stone. If I can't help you understand that, okay, if we're in a relationship and I get a job first, you have to understand your ego and your pride is going to be tested because the white man or this society and black people have come to the conclusion to, if you can't provide for this family, you're not a man. If you're emotional and you cry, you're not a man. You know what I mean? That's wrong because he should be able to emotionally express himself, especially to the person that he's supposed to be creating life with, if that's the case. Now, if that's not the case, you still should be able to feel safe with somebody that you call your significant other, and we don't have that security, that sanctuary to be able to come to each other and talk. Now, on the topic of black females, because I can go on and on about, or like for instance, before I continue on with black females, like for instance, how black men has reconstructed and redefined masculinity with toughness, uh, 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 um, how can I put it, sex, thrill seeking, and it's not helping us. It's not helping us. It's hindering us. You know what I mean? Now to dive into the female dynamic, as far as the fact that, for instance, during the '60s, right, the feminist movement had broke, and it was intertwined with the Black Power movement, as far as the Black Panthers, the Black Power movement, as far as outside of other within other organizations like the US organization or SNCC or SNCC, and we found ourselves. How can I put this? We found ourselves on the opposite end of the spectrum from the black man. Now, when the black woman, when the black feminine, when the white, when the white feminist movement, because that's what it really is, when the white feminist movement came about, white women are trying to tell black women, oh, we need to stand together and all these other things. But you're not adding in the race dynamic because you're a feminist and you're having a problem with your white man. I'm not having a problem with my black man. What you and your white man is doing is subjugating and oppressing us. So me and his problems are similar. They are one and the same because we are one, you know. And what problems you got with your white man, I don't have with my black man. You know what I mean? That's not my struggle. But it was very convincing to the sisters in the past, and we jumped on that bandwagon. So that was the demise of the black family structure right there. In particular, because if you take the psychosis that the black man is in, and the independent superwoman thought process that the black woman has, that I don't need no nigga type of thought process. I just need a sugar daddy, or I don't need a black man type dynamic. It's gonna kill us. That's the end of the family structure. On top of, now I must make this disclaimer. I am not about to speak badly upon the LGBT community because I know that a lot of the things that happened to us during slavery contributed to the high numbers of homosexuality in our communities now. And of course, the agenda that they have against black people to make us more homosexual, to break down the family structure, even though black homosexuals are still trying to create families, not from the natural dynamic of the perspective of male, female, and child. And it's more so now male and child, and female and child. Now, I know the natural dynamic of what we want, the natural essence of what we want is still there because we still want families. But who we do it with is what we're not following through with. When we know nature made it to be this way. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that we just picked up like, hey, I want to be gay. And now they're saying that you're born that way with all these chemicals and shit in the food. Probably yes. But on a grand scale, to look at it wholeheartedly and tie our past to what we're going through now, slavery had a lot to do with that. Like, I want to make a reference to this movie called Farewell, Uncle Tom. This is something you can't find on YouTube. It's called Farewell, Uncle Tom. And it's about basically the breaking camps of slavery. How will they take little, this is graphic, they will take little black boys, lather them up, and place them on an auction block for homosexuals, not just to be sold as a slave, to be sold off as sexual tools and sexual and for someone's pleasure and entertainment. You know, it wasn't just to uh, uh, pick your cotton or pick your tobacco or pick your sugar cane. It was to sexually appease you as well. So when people, because me, I am of understanding of the LGBT community because I was once a part of that community. You know what I mean? I was once a part of the community that seen things from a perspective of I had a fucked up childhood, and whether it be my mother or my father, I didn't have a good relationship with them, or I was sexually molested, or I was, you know, what have you, or whatever. And it had a toll on my decision making on how I wanted to see myself or identify myself sexually. And I had to step back. Like when I first came into consciousness in 2011, 2012, I was like that. And when I started reading up upon how homosexuality came from Europeans, a lot of my friends at that time period was like, oh, no, it didn't. I made this decision. I'm like, nah, bro. Like, if you really dive deep into the dynamics and the intricacies of homosexuality, it comes from Europe. It has no founding. You can't find nowhere in history where Black people and African people had that in our community. Like we wasn't on no homosexual type shit. People can say, oh well, this king or that queen or this, that, and the third, they was doing it, but it's being told from a story of our oppressors. So they're gonna try to because our history is being told to us by our oppressors. Of course, you have Dr. John Henry Clark, Amos Wilson, who else? Chancellor Williams, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Shirazad Ali. You have all these people who are bringing all this information to us from a Black African consciousness perspective. You are, but on a whole totality, as far as what information gets out to us, we're getting it from the white man. It's being told to us by the victor. You know what I mean? Not the person who lost the struggle. We didn't lose the struggle back then. We was in bondage, so we was fighting back, but you know, our story is being told to us by our enslavers. So we have to take that with a grain of salt. So we have to do our own research, and that's why I'm thankful for the ancestors who went the extra mile to be able to get that. Now, not to get lost in the sauce, we have to pay attention to Black women, because I don't want to negate from this. Black women was dealing with the feminist dynamic. We was also dealing with the fact that the Black man was struggling with his psychology, and we were also dealing with the psychology of our children. That's why, like, I understand it's a compliment, but when people say, "Oh, you a strong Black sister," we not always trying to be strong like this. I'm not trying to. I used this analogy yesterday when my friend was on the phone talking about it. I don't want to have to bench press 350 pounds if I know I can only bench press 150. Okay, I don't want to do no extra straining if I don't have to in order to just get by. You know what I'm saying? And try to build something with my family. I'm thankful for you identifying that I am a strong Black woman, but how come I just can't be a feminine woman? You know what I'm saying? Like, how come I can't be revolutionary and feminine intertwined? You know, if I'm a revolutionary hardcore that believes in, for instance, confrontational politics, right? If you don't know what that is, I'm not gonna get into that. If you know who I am, you know what I'm talking about. Uh, if we're taking the dynamic of computational politics, we look more as a tough female with masculine traits. But it's just the anger that fuels us of what our situation is and how we're going to get out of it. You know, I'm going to take a more of a mean approach or a strict approach to how I deal with my people and how I deal with myself in my own reversing the hypnosis. I have to look at it with truth, with my third eye. I can't sugarcoat shit and call it a pastry like my comrade Ascari once said. I can't sugarcoat shit and call it a pastry. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to give it to you like it is. And if you don't like that, if that's not the truth, then I'm not the friend or comrade for you, you know, or spouse for that matter. You know what I mean? So we have to take into consideration that we're dealing with, which the Black man is too, because he's also dealing with the psychosis that we're dealing with our dynamics that we have to deal with psychologically. Then we also have to think about what he's dealing with psychologically in the outside world. And we need to be more loving towards each other and what that truly means. You know what I'm saying? Because if we can't show our children and break the cycles of a destructive family structure and dysfunctional family structure, then where do we go? Who's going to break the cycle? We have to break this cycle. We have to make sure that if our kids is disrespectful, that is more of a reflect on our parenting skills and how good we dress them. You know, just because you dress them nice and they dripping out here doesn't mean that you're a good parent. It's how your child respects the people around them is what shows whether or not you're a good parent or not. And the fact that we are in turmoil when it comes to the black relationship, when it comes to the black, give me 1 second, y'all. The children is calling. Baby's got to be tended to. But when it comes to educating ourselves on our specific situation, is very very hard for us to come to terms with this because we don't. I don't want to say we don't want to blame the white man, but it's his fault. Give me 1 second, family. Now, sorry about the interruption, family. Kids got to be tended to, or the children. Um, Now, let's talk about the children as far as their psychosis, because you have children who choose anger over anything, you know, and adolescent anger for black men and black women is either anger for black men and promiscuity for black women. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, you have to think about it with the children, right? Like with black women, black female girls at that time during slavery. If you're about 11, 12, right, and you're a virgin, and a white man tries to rape you, he's going to be upset. And this is something also that you can see in this movie called Farewell Uncle Tom, where you had brothels that black women were in control of, and the white man had come to get his rocks off. And if you send a girl in there that's a virgin, he's going to be upset. And then the black girl is going to get chastised by the black woman, like, oh, you a virgin? Like, what? Now you have to deal with the promiscuity in our community with our young girls because of the thought process and the psychosis that we had to deal with during slavery. Yes, that still affects us to this day. That still affects us to this day. Like, for instance, how the black woman had to demean her black child. 1 second, fam. All right, family, I'm back. Now, I want to deal with the children as far as how they deal with a family not sticking together or what have you, or promiscuity, or lashing out with anger because they can't deal with the pressures that they deal with as children. Because they have the dynamic of being oppressed too when it comes to the educational system, and these teachers, and particularly black boys, having to deal with white female teachers who don't understand where they come from. So we have all these things that tie into the raising of a black family structure in connection to the black relationship. Now, right now, there is a big thing going on in the black community. It's poly, this polyamorous relationships. Now, I don't know if you guys know what polyamorous is. Polyamorous has multiple categories, but to sum it all up, it's a man, a female, and others. Man and female. It's not like polygamy where it's one man and multiple wives. This is polyamory where there is one man, one female, and others involved, male or female. And polyamory is what's taking hold right now. It's catching the winds, I guess you could say. The second wind is bringing polyamory into the black community quickly, because I was in a polygamous relationship. I can do polygamy, you know. I thought I could at least, but that's just that specific dynamic of a black relationship. Not everybody is for that. Now, jealousy. You have jealousy. You have toxic relationships. You have toxic people like These specific environments are not healthy for a poly anything to flourish and be nourished and be able to grow, because you're dealing with possibly someone joining in on a polyamory or polygamy dynamic in the relationship based off of, please forgive me, dick and pussy politics. I was taught about dick and pussy politics, and it obscures the true nature and dynamic of why people should take on a polyamorous, in particular a polygamous relationship, because we know right now there are very few black men out here to engage in a flourishing and loving black relationship. You see what I'm saying? And there is more women out here than men. So taking on more wives is a scientifically proven thing that could help our community, where our sisterhood could be could grow. We can help each other as far as children, where the stressors of having children, whether it be in well, it wouldn't be a a single parent household, because there would be the father and the other woman there, or however the situation is constructed. But the stressors of having to deal with the children on your own are not there, because the other wife or the husband or other husband from another situation could help you with that. Or black men being able to understand women from multiple perspectives, not just, oh, this woman is how this. Oh no, you can, another female or another sister could chime in on that, like, well, you were wrong. If that's granted in a relationship where she could chime in on that dynamic. There's some where you don't have nothing to say about our relationship, you don't have nothing to say about our relationship. So it is what it is. So don't chime in. But if that door was open to her to be able to speak on a relationship with the other person involved, it would be you wrong and you're right, or I'm wrong and you're right. Like, there was able to be a mediator, is what I'm trying to say. There's a mediator in this specific situation. So it's more of a possibility of the union staying together. You will have an understanding of the elders. You can go to elders to help you figure out how to deal with this situation if they are on a revolutionary mind frame. Now, if they're just, monogamous, because a lot of people was raised on a monogamous dynamic. They only understand monogamy. Oh, you okay with him being with your man? Or you okay with her being with your man? Or you okay with sharing? It's like, oh no, I could never. And I tried it out. I did a courting for the year, courting for a year with no sexual contact. And it built our relationship. It built our relationship stronger, to know that we can bond and grow and laugh and build on something other than a sexual, intimate relation. And it felt good to know that it's possible. And particularly me, I can do it, with just the interest of the preserving of a back relationship. That specific situation didn't pan out like I thought it would, but it had nothing to do with the relationship. I'm gonna put it that way. The relationship was A1 for me personally. The conversation, the communication, the teaching that was going back and forth, the gems that were dropped, it was nourishing to my soul, and it left me with lifelong lessons. You know what I mean? But what we need to get back to, and I'm gonna get a mic back to knowledge, understanding, communication, and commitment and comprehension. Because we can communicate all we want, but if you're not comprehending what I'm telling you, it's a problem. Like, for instance, there's a saying of a revolutionary woman needs a revolutionary man, because me and Knowledge Born was just talking about this before the radio show. And a revolutionary woman can't be with no non-revolutionary man, because it's going to tear her down, and same thing vice versa. A non-revolutionary woman is going to tear down a revolutionary man, because they're not going to see eye to eye on the important points that keep their relationship intact. You know what I mean? Matrix thought process is going to tear down a revolutionary if the inner peace or the sanctuary where they go is not being reciprocated of the revolutionary knowledge that he or she is learning. If that knowledge is not reciprocated and understood that it's making me want to be a better person, then the relationship is not going to work. If you don't want to make yourself a better person and you feel like don't need to change and you good how you are, and a revolutionary understands that change is good and it's inevitable and it's not against it, it's going to cause conflict. And I personally feel like this ties exactly into birthing because a lot of females go through very hard pregnancies dealing with stress and health problems, and they don't have the proper circles to be able to psychologically and mentally deal with whatever comes their way. They don't have a safe circle of either women, and men don't have a safe circle of men that they can go and talk to, and then they can go back to their families and deal with the situation. It's just all bad. Domestic violence is a high number in our community. You know what I'm saying? Drug abuse is a high problem in our community, and it all plays a part in how our relationships play out. You know what I mean? Because a black woman will show a black man if he's dealing with a substance situation that she's there to stick it out with him. I've done it myself. I sat there and was like, okay, I'm gonna try to work through this with you. Now, once you get to start to stealing DVDs and the kids' shit, then we're gonna have to sit down because that's a red flag. You know what I mean? But um, that's what I really wanted to specifically talk about. I hope my family heard me. Once again, I want to reiterate because I know people will come for you. As I was listening to one of the other conversations with another sister that you had on the show, Conrad, and she was talking about the LGBT community and the whole WAP movement. The whole Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion song that came out. And no, I'm not hating on any other sister that's going through her little WAP phase or what have you. But I know that specific thought process is not progressive to where we're trying to go. I know that a lot of LGBT people in that community will pick up a chopper and fight this struggle with us. So I have to have a little bit of empathy for those people. As long as they're willing to pick up a chopper, we can talk about your sexual orientation and identification later. Because again, eventually you will learn that this came from the white man and this is not something natural. Right? And I'll leave you with this little fact. Like a lot of people out there that's in the LGBT community that are women that are lesbians don't even know where the word lesbian came from. The word lesbian comes from Europe. There's an island off the coast of Greece called Lesbos. And there are white lesbians, and I believe probably black too, that go to this island as a retreat. Like it's the Catalina Islands or some shit, or Jamaica, or you know what I'm saying, or St. Lucia Islands. Like you are going to this place to mingle with the fuckery. And a lot of people don't want to accept these facts to be true, and that the white man put these destructive dynamics in our community to dissolve the black family structure. There's multiple things that we all know that's not healthy, but we still engage. But we have to be strong mentally to know that our brain capacity can do these things. Mind you, we built the pyramids. I don't care if they want to say dinosaurs helped us build it, aliens helped us build it, but we know for a fact, we as black African people know for a fact our people had a part to play in that. Whoever scientifically wants to be like, oh, well, they were helped by outside forces. Well, it was us who was doing it. I know that for a fact, so I know we can get back to a higher level of understanding. We only use 10% of our brains, people. Come on now, what if we get to at least 20? Do you know what we could do? I know y'all seen that punk ass movie Lucy with the white girl. So if we can get back to understanding that, we are, because a lot of people like to say we shouldn't put one race over the other, right? And I'm going to end on this note. We shouldn't put one race over the other, but we know that the black woman holds the mitochondria gene as far as the E gene that births all of civilization. We know that the black man is looked at and desired upon because of his masculinity, and we need to take that in consideration how sought after we are. Like everybody wants to be black. Everybody loves black culture, but don't want to be black. So let's love ourselves. Let's think about these dynamics that play a part in us growing a strong family structure and just do the work, do the knowledge, you know what I'm saying, family, and just work towards having bulletproof black love for each other. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is, family. And Sista Khalifa, I'm gonna get the mic back to my comrade, Knowledge.
Appreciate them jewels, sis. We out of here. Okay? Don't be a stranger. You know this your home.